Hey everybody, it's Mike Weller from the Weller Group at Keller Williams Realty. We are here for our latest Orange County real estate update weekly report. Looking back at last week, October 27th through November 2nd. So this would have been the last week before the election, which just happened this week. So I'm glad that's behind us now. But last week, the 27th through November 2nd, we had 410 sales here in Orange County. Not a huge number necessarily, but it was actually 27 more properties than we put on the market, with only 383 new listings coming on the market. So that's 2 weeks in a row, interestingly enough, that we sold more properties than we had new listings. That is the first two consecutive week period that we have seen that happen since back in March of this year. So from the beginning of April through the middle of October, most weeks we actually had more listings come on the market than properties we sold. There've been a week here and there where that wasn't the case. Sometimes it was because of a holiday. Sometimes it was just a 1 week anomaly. This is a 2 week period. Not that that makes a trend necessarily, but it is just kind of interesting that there's actually more buyer activity than listing activity over that 2 week period. So we will see if that continues here as we get into November, especially now that we're past the election. Interesting enough, going back to the last presidential election 4 years ago, 2020, volume was higher, activity was higher, both on the buy side and on the listing side. But during that period at the end of 2020, we were putting more properties on the market week in and week out that fall, that September, October, than we were selling. And that was a pretty robust real estate market the second half of 2020, the COVID year, after we kind of got past the initial COVID shutdowns and interest rates dropped, and buyers and sellers and realtors figured out how to navigate selling properties during that time. So just kind of interesting that the buyer activity relative to seller and listing activity has actually been higher here the last couple of weeks for the first time in over 7 months or so, and it's a different trend than it was the same presidential election time in 2020. So anyway, that's our weekly report. That's the update. I know that's a little longer than I usually try to be, but I thought that was an interesting share. So reach out to me with your questions. Otherwise, I will be back next week. I'll see you then. Take care.